very special interview here on Jewish Music Toronto. Today, I'm meeting with Dovid Lowy, an Israeli musician who does all kinds of different Jewish music. Dovid, thank you for taking the time to meet with me today. I know your schedule is crazy. You're here in Toronto for a few more hours, really.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Have you been enjoying your stay?
Very much. Baruch Hashem, I have a lot of family here, a lot of good quality time.
So you're actually originally from the States, am I correct?
Yes, originally from New York, Staten Island.
Yeah.
But now we live in Eretz Yisrael.
How long ago did you move?
We moved to Eretz Yisrael, I think it's now 7 years.
So you got married and you moved, or you?
No, we got married, we lived in Queens. I was learning in yeshiva there, yeshiva called Landers, also taking college credits over there. I was also in the smicha program there, and then afterwards we always wanted to move to Eretz Yisrael, so we were about 3 years married, had a kid. Our second child was just born, 6 weeks old. We picked up and we went. Yeah, it was crazy.
That's a big move.
It was a big move, yeah.
So how many do you have now? How many kids?
Baruch Hashem, we have 4 children.
That's really nice. So I'd love to know a little bit more about your music. I just learned about you quite recently myself. It's wonderful that I get to learn about new people and sometimes meet with them almost immediately. This is kind of one of those situations. So I've delved in a little bit into your music, and from what I've heard so far, I'm getting kind of a different progression from maybe acoustic sounding stuff into now what is more of a poppy type feel, almost like Benny Friedman in his newer stuff as well. What has your progression been? When did you start playing music professionally?
Okay, so it's always when people ask me these questions, it's like I have to open up 30 plus years of my life.
When did you let's go way back. And when did you start first playing music?
I guess an official instrument, I started actually playing drums, was my first instrument when I was, I think, 9. After a while I got a little bored of playing just beats, so I picked up a guitar and started playing some tunes. I was around 13 at that time, I think, and been playing pretty much since then. Yeah, I've been singing always though. I mean, since I'm a little child, I have videos of me singing with my older brother, who was definitely an influence for me. He was in Miami Boys Choir, which was, definitely brought music into the home a lot. Going to concerts growing up, etc. It was very big. So we've been singing since.
Is there a bit of sibling rivalry
there
as far as musical accomplishments?
Not at all. He's actually my biggest supporter. Both of my brothers, I have 2 brothers, Baruch Hashem, they're my biggest supporters, and whenever I need good criticisms, I know I can trust them. Whenever I need a good opinion, I know that I can rely on them, and they're big supporters of me. Yeah. So you started in a non-professional sense all that time ago. When did you actually start hitting it hard as far as trying to make a career out of it? Well, a career is a word I don't know if I still want to use, but when did I pursue my passion in a real way is about, 4 or 5 years ago? I'm not that great with times, but basically my first album I started working on, I think around 2012, right? Again, dates are like vague in my mind, but my first album...
I'm not so great with history myself. It was one of my worst subjects in school. All those dates fly right out.
I just know how to backtrack how long I worked on things for. So I know my newest album came out a year ago, and I worked on that for almost 2 years, and my album before that came out 2 years ago before that, and I worked on that for 2 years. So I guess if you add up the math, that's where you get when I started to really work on an album professionally. It was a lot of work, and it was a progress. It was a process. I started to write songs already when I was much younger. I think my first song I wrote, which was my first album, I wrote one of the songs I traced back to writing in high school, so I was about 15, 16 at that time. That was, I guess, the first full song. I always wrote different things, always played around tunes, but like to write a full song, I think when I was 15. And but professionally, that only really came to, reality on an album, 10 plus years, after that.
Well, that's the case. I mean, the stuff that I've heard, just to start with, sounds very, very professionally done. Did you immediately go and start working with professional studio people?
I mean, when I decided I'm going to make an album, I went to professional people, very good people, and it was a slow process, especially my first album. I produced my own album, which is a little unique. A lot of singers out there today have their own producers, so I kind of was finding the path on my own. Sometimes people have like professional producers, like, okay, here are the arrangers you're going to work with. They tell you which songs you're going to choose. They kind of lay out a lot of the work for you, and they work with you. And I was kind of just like on my own, saying, okay, I have this song. Do I want to do it or not? Who's the arrangers? Like, kind of finding it on my own, being very involved in the arrangements myself. In the studio with them, with the guitarists, with the musicians. So it was a long process. Especially the first album was 2 hard working years on that, and it was a great learning experience doing it.
That's quite a bit of time to put into an album, but it's a lot of your heart and soul going into that, clearly.
Yeah.
From that first album, what did you find the reception was critically and personally, in friends, family, and other people who've seen it, heard it?
I kind of got 2 reactions from like people that knew me. Some people were like, I didn't know you do this, because I'm very quiet by nature, and I'm not necessarily the guy who gets up for the Amud, in shul and davens, and I'm not necessarily the guy who's like, at Kumsitz to like steal the show. I'm more of a quiet guy on the side. So some of my friends were like, I had no idea. People were like, I didn't know you do this. But some of the closer friends that I had were like, I've been waiting for you to do this for 15 years. Finally, it's about time that you decided to take this, seriously. So that was in terms of like my immediate circle. In terms of globally, so I mean, there's this whole thing that I discovered that's called marketing, that you have to like market yourself.
Yeah.
Which like I'm not necessarily good at, because I just want to pursue my passion, and I'm in this for something that I feel is more of a spiritual pursuit, and it comes along with it. You got to do what you got to do. Yeah, I'm still somewhat, like you said, you're just discovering me. There are other people that discover me here and there slowly. I'm not like a boom. It takes the time for people to...
So this is a good segue into what my real next question would be then, which is, as far as achievements go, I already know one that I'm thinking of that I believe you've done, but maybe you would speak to some things that you believe you've achieved in your career so far as a musician.
So definitely on a personal level, like I said, this is more, a lot of this whole taking things to a serious level was much more of a personal, what they call avoda, working on myself. I know naturally I'm a more of a shy person, but I know that Hashem, God gave me certain talents, and He obviously wants me to use them. I have certain tunes that I wrote, not for just, me to sing in the shower, but maybe to inspire other people. So, you have to overcome certain struggles, and you have to try to do what you feel is meaningful, and that's sort of been a personal journey for me to decide that, against my nature of being a quiet person, to try to get up there and to try to do something meaningful with it.
So, am I correct in my understanding that you have sung with the likes of Abie Rotenberg?
Yes.
He's a big Toronto name.
That's right.
As I'm sure
actually
you
just
already...
bumped into him the other day. There was a Sefer Torah ceremony of a new Sefer Torah, and he was dancing, and I just happened to be walking right next to him, and we schmoozed together about music. It was very nice.
There you go. What was that like, getting to sing with him?
It was a real treat. I happened to work with somebody else who's from Toronto here, who made the arrangements for that song you're referring to, Meheira. His name is Eli Green.
I happen to know him.
Yeah. He's a good friend of mine. We knew each other.
Toronto is not a small community, but it's sometimes not a gigantic community, depending on where you're speaking.
But it's amazing how musically so much talent is born right over here.
Yeah. It's a pretty good city that way.
Yeah.
What would you think it would be the next big name that you would want to work with?
That I would want to work with. That's a good question. I don't know. I don't really think of it that way. I kind of have. It depends on like having a song, which I don't necessarily have one in mind right now. A new one, but it's kind of like, okay, this song, who's it? Who do I think? Like on my new album, I had a song, and it was the last song on the album called Together, and I knew right away this has to be a duet, and I didn't know exactly who, but once I developed the song and the style, I said this song belongs to a Razel. I don't know if you're familiar with the Razels in Israel, the 2 brothers, Yonatan and Aaron.
There's a different Razel I'm thinking of, but it's Razel, and it's a totally different music genre.
Okay, so maybe a little bit more popular in the Israeli circles, but I happened to actually learn together and be friends with one of the Razels, Yonatan. I learned with them in yeshiva, and they are amazingly talented. I'm sure you know the song Vihi Shamda from Shweki.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm familiar.
So
I love that particular song.
The composer of that song was Yonatan Razel. And that made it more into the, I guess, American circles. That's his claim to fame. But he has many other songs that are great. And that particular song, I said, it really belongs to that like genre that they have. Those 2 brothers. I happened to speak to Yonatan, who's my friend, who wasn't able to do it at the time, but he's like my brother for sure. And I spoke to him, and Baruch Hashem, we hit it off, and it's an amazing song. So that's just an example of like I had a song, and then I said, wow, that's somebody who I think would make this song really great together. So it's not like I really like want to sing with somebody. It's more like if I think there's a song that's I have to hear it, and then if I'm familiar with someone else's style that I think would be fitting for the song.
That's interesting. It's a different approach to it.
Yeah.
Between your albums, you have now 2 or 3 albums?
2 albums.
2 albums. The initial was Ta'i Madi, and
right.
the new one is called?
Well, there's an English title and a Hebrew title.
Inspire
is the English, and Ta'amin Shiatov, believe that will be good, is the Hebrew title.
Why such a difference?
Well, it's sort of, first of all, I guess, I don't know if I was going with the flow, but there happen to be other albums out there that have started to do an English and a Hebrew title, which I noticed. And I kind of liked it also because it's very limiting to just have like one title, especially if you have, you know, a few songs that you really like and that they have a message out there that you want people to see right away when they see your cover. So Inspire was definitely from the start the title that I wanted, but also because I live in Israel and I did have some Israeli songs that I wanted people to see. Ta'amin Shiatov was also a title that I felt was befitting for the album.
So going back to an earlier question that I had asked you, as far as your style, your genres that you've been going with, you started very, very acoustic, almost unplugged as it were, and now you're doing, let's say, Nigun Mashiach.
Okay.
That's very, very poppy.
Right.
Is that the kind of thing that people should expect that you're going to be sticking with, or are you going to have more of a mix?
That's a good question. I guess my answer is that I try to have no expectations, and I don't want my listeners to be expecting anything.
All right, that's fair.
Not to put anyone else down, that's not the point, but there are many albums I find that come out from artists, and it's almost like it's very predictable. Like this sounds just like different words, but it's the same style, same arrangements, sometimes the same names that are involved in the production, and there's nothing like new, there's nothing fresh, nothing to anticipate with it. I don't want to be like that.
Okay,
I'm hoping
that's fair.
And
sometimes people have a style that they like to stick to because people come to expect it almost. But but other times there are plenty of artists out there who are like, I'm going to keep testing my boundaries and see where I'm going.
So that's what I find also as I compose, and Baruch Hashem also, I guess something a little bit unique about my music is I compose the songs that I sing. Is that I find myself composing different things, you know, totally different styles sometimes. So sometimes I'm even surprised at the type of styles that just come out just as I'm playing around or something. So I kind of like that myself, that I keep surprising myself, I guess, as I come up with an interesting tune and what I could do with it and arrange it in a different way to bring out, you know, something different.
All right. Well, I would love to hear a couple of pieces if you have the time. So we're actually going to cut our interview here, and if you will check either on top of one of our faces or right about here, you'll see a link to either or of the songs that we're going to be playing here today.